Welcome back to Let's Have It Out. I'm semi-famous musical comedian, Deep Fried Man. My guest tonight is DA Federal Youth... I can speak. My guest tonight is DA Federal Youth Leader Luyolo Mpiti. So, let's talk about something that I'm sure you probably would rather not. Earlier on when I tweeted, let's find out if you are embarrassed by Madam Helen Zille, you said, no, the elders in the party must be respected, something to that effect. But do you not feel like her utterances on colonialism are incredibly bad PR for a party that might be trying to broaden their support base?
I think when one unpacks the tweets, one has to look at it in terms of the South African population. And I think if anybody is a public figure or leader in South Africa, one needs to always be sensitized to what South Africans feel by what we say as public officials. And I think one of the things for me that is important is that when you look at colonialism, you're talking about the dispossession of black people, you're talking about the enslavement and forced labor of black people who were oppressed because of colonialism. And I think sentiments around colonialism will always receive a sensitive knock. And everybody will feel as if, you know, whatever the sentiments are, that they will be offended. And I think that's what South Africans feel. They are offended by those sentiments. And I think it would be fair of us to judge them otherwise.
But so then what happened was there was a disciplinary process. And the outcome of the disciplinary process, as far as I know, is that Helen Zille was allowed to carry on her duties as Premier, but was told no longer to be involved in party activities. Then recently, a story came out in the news saying that she's been placed on a very important panel, which is going to help determine who the DA sends to Parliament. Also, more recently, she said that a lot of people had approached her to see if she'd be willing to replace de Lille as mayor. So, do you not think that these sort of things happening are in contradiction with the idea that she has been disciplined? And what do you think of the idea that some people would say that the DA doesn't really want to discipline her, they are just doing it to save face?
Well, I think the processes of the DA are there. She's been put under the processes by the party, and a verdict has been given by the Federal Legal Commission. And that verdict was that she should not be involved in party-related events, and that she should continue as the Premier of the Western Cape. What I can say is that one cannot take away that Helen Zille played a vital role in the democracy that we have in South Africa. And I think one of the main important things is that we should not, as a society, try to erase the contributions of women that we have in our country. And I think there's a tendency in South Africa where the contribution of women leaders is completely erased. And I think we must self-correct, we must condemn things that we disagree with, but also at the same time, let's not erase people's contributions. And I think Helen Zille has contributed phenomenally to this country, and I think the work that she's given must be respected. And if she's made a mistake, let's call her out. That's the center of politics.
I think that was a good answer. I think your check from Mrs. Zille is in the mail. Let's hear from our Twitter viewers. Okay, there's someone called Dingis on Twitter. I don't know how to pronounce that, D-I-N-G-I-S, and he says, the so-called young leadership has no personal experience of apartheid. That is why the DA wants young blacks as leaders while it keeps old white leaders. This misguided belief is that blacks are too stupid to understand such DA tricks. Can't trust the DA. I think that that's very harsh, Dingus, but all the same, thank you for the comment. What do you say?
Well, I think black leaders in the DA are consistently undermined. I think we have joined the DA because we want to contribute to South Africa. I'll give you a quick example. The leader of the Democratic Alliance, Musi Maimane, this man wakes up every day at 4 a.m. engaging South Africans every day, and you have Twitter that is fighting him unnecessary. And I think...
So when you say that black leaders in the DA are undermined, you're not saying from within the DA, you're saying from people outside of the DA.
I think there's a tendency...
Because next thing there's a headline, Mr. Mpiti says that black leaders in the DA are undermined.
No, definitely not that. I think there's a tendency to undermine black leaders as being puppets, as being people who are put there to be window dressing, and I think that's completely not true. It's a fallacy. It's something that's not something that's happening.
Thank you. We have a caller on the line. We have Daly from Limpopo. And how are you, Daly? Sorry, this happens daily. But Okay, we've lost Daly. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How are you, Defra?
I'm okay. So, some other things. The de Lille matter.
Yes.
So some say that corruption is corruption. If it exists, it must be called out. Others see it as a pattern within the DA. Some have made reference to what happened to Lindiwe Mazibuko and have indicated that there seems to be a clash between strong black leaders within the DA and a certain faction within it. Is that accurate in the portrayal of what happened with Patricia de Lille?
Well, I think when you look at leaders like Lindiwe Mazibuko as well as Patricia de Lille, you have to look at them independently. There were different issues in both cases. There were certain processes that were followed in both cases. The Federal Legal Commission took lead in investigating some of the claims. But I think that's definitely not true. I think young people and black people in the DA have trust in the DA and have trust in the processes of the DA. And I don't think there's a purge of any kind. I think there's a lot of black leaders within the DA that don't have public profiles, that are not covered by media, ENCA, SABC. They're not covered. And that does not mean that there's no black leaders in the DA.
Thank you. We are back with Daly from Limpopo. How are you doing, Daly?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Thank you. I'm so well.
Cool. Do you have a question for Luyolo?
Yes, I've got a question for, I refer to him as the chief unpackist, because I actually appreciate how he unpacks a whole lot of issues, especially with the DA and its positions. So I just want him to explain to young people, especially those that are looking at BEE or triple BEE being their hopes and aspirations, as to what is it that can alternatively be presented to them or be offered to them to empower them.
Thank you, Daly. I appreciate that. I think one of the things during the policy consultations that have taken place within the party, the DA youth has been quite strong on the fact that we cannot let go of race as a determinant of disadvantage in this country. And I think up until we have a policy framework that allows South Africa to move forward and deal with current disadvantage and people who are currently disadvantaged, we cannot move away from race. And I think, Daly, the question that you are asking is that when we look at young people, currently we have 3.7 young South Africans, 3.7 million young South Africans without jobs. So how do we look at this crisis, which is a pandemic across this country where young people don't have jobs? And behind these numbers are the faces and stories of young people who on a Monday go without jobs, who go on a Tuesday without an opportunity to further their dreams. And I think that is the conversations we should be having in this country.
Let's get them a job by Wednesday. We take more of your questions and comments after the break.